Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. It's Tuesday afternoon, so it's another edition of Recruiting Intel. I'm Joe Cook, got Justin Wells, got Coach Dub. If you're here, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And of course, head to InsideTexas.com. You can join for just $1. Good afternoon to you as well, Roaster. Glad that you have made it out here again. And recruiting season never stops. It's March. I think it means, what is it? Not contact period, right?
Yes. Yeah. It opened up Monday morning. Yep.
It means recruits can head to campus. Coaches can't go see recruits off campus, but guys can make their way to Texas in March and April. But of course, we've got June official visits to talk about. We got a bunch of prospects to talk about. And Coach, we'll start it off with you. You over the weekend wrote something about Felix Ojo on his way toward the seemingly towards the top spot in the state. Has a battle on his hands with some other DFW guys for that role. But what are some of the things you learned from recently talking to Ojo, and especially what his top schools may be?
Yeah, we got a chance to talk about his official visits. Talk about him competing, right? He just finished a long basketball season where they made a deep playoff run. Should have still been in it, but something else happened with Lake Ridge. But here he is out here throwing the discus. He just wants to compete and prove that he's the best, not only in the state, but he's trying to prove he's the best offensive lineman in the entire nation. And that's all he wants to do is compete and show everybody that his rankings, ever since he told me that maybe a few months ago, his rankings have steady, risen. He's close to the top now. But he talked about all the schools that he has official visits set up, from Ohio State and all the other schools that have come out there. We talked about Texas and the relationship to Texas, and Texas has really been steady and consistent from the beginning. They're letting him know he's a priority. Even those other schools like Ole Miss and other guys are trying to make a run at him. They're battling. A lot of new coaches like Ohio State. They have a new offensive line coach. They had to build a relationship. But Texas has been steady across the board. He has a great relationship with Texas. Also, the factor is he has younger siblings and family who want to see him play on Saturdays. Right? You don't have to get on the plane. You just got to drive maybe 2.5 hours south to go see him play a piece in Austin. So just kind of catching up with him this past Saturday was awesome, man. Just kind of talk about his schools and what he's looking for. What he's looking for when he goes on these official visits, just really being around the guys, being around the coaches, and learning more in depth about the school, academically and football-wise.
Who were some of the other schools that are standing out to him along with Texas, and what did he have to say about the Longhorns as well?
Yeah, so you had Michigan, Ole Miss, and Ohio State as well with Texas. Michigan, Coach Moore, they have a great relationship. Coach Moore played offensive line, so he talked about that a little bit of, hey, he knows exactly what it takes. He's been there. He's seen it. They're building at Michigan. Ohio State, of course, coming off a national championship, that's always a big thing. It gives a little bit of extra buzz to it. But they have a new offensive line coach he has to build that relationship with, right? And then Ole Miss, he said Coach Kiffin's probably one of the coolest guys. He has a relationship with him and the offensive line coach there. And so, they're coming on strong as of late. He said that's the school that's really out of nowhere, trying to get him and push him the most. But at Texas, just Coach Kyle Flood, it's the development. He's seeing guys like Trevor Gooseby who got in and played right away and looked good. He saw Kelvin Banks. He saw Cam Williams. He mentioned that and talked about, look at these guys. And we all got to saw this past weekend in the NFL Combine. Look what Texas put out there. It was a Texas show. It wasn't the NFL Combine. It was a Texas Combine. So he sees that. And he's paying attention to it because he sees the pipeline. Okay, I can be the next guy, right? And when kids start envisioning that and thinking about it, you put you in a really good spot with the school.
Justin, we've talked a good amount about the players, at least along the offensive line, that Texas is interested in. And they've looked coast to coast. They've looked all over the country. They've sent some offers out to some of the nationally elite guys. They're still looking. They've tried to offer Jackson Actually, I don't even think they've offered Jackson Cantwell. I know they've offered Emmanuel Iheanacho, but even so, they're looked from coast to coast and even all the way out in Hawaii. They may not need to look further than the state of Texas and start with Ojo and then Turntine as well.
Yeah, look, the in-state crop for offensive tackles, we've talked about this a lot. It's fabulous. I mean, 1 through 5, 1 through 6, you can't go wrong. They all have upside. Max Wright is a commitment in this class, and I think he is in that conversation at the end of the top 5, top 6. He's got tremendous upside. I actually caught up with him yesterday. He's so happy that his recruitment's over. That kid has it figured out. And I know why Sark and Flood like him so much. Not just the upside on the field. That kid has got it off the field as well. 2027, you don't have to drive that far. Offensive tackles are ridiculous in 2027. Kennedy Brown, Big Juice Johnson, like there's some dudes coming up. So, but I think this is Texas being thorough. Like, understand, Felix Ojo, John Turntine, those are the big gifts. That's the stuff Santa brings you on Christmas morning. These others are backup plans, contingencies. You have to make sure, because you never know which way a player will go. A coach could leave, and then all of a sudden you're out of the running for a 4-star running back out of Forney. It's just the way it works. And so you've got to plan. You've got to plan right and have contingencies and backups. And I think that's why they're being so strict and being so thorough, out of state for those guys. And honestly, I like some of those guys too, but you're not going to go wrong in state in the next 2 years. Kyle Flood's not going to have to go that far. And with the O-line class they signed last year, that was a solid group, but man, they missed out on tackles. And I think they have to overcompensate for that in 2026. And I think that's why they're going to go with 3, maybe even 4, with one of those guys or 2 of those guys potentially being swing guys. But look, when April comes, late April, and that draft happens, and you see all those offensive linemen get picked, buddy, it's going to be a lot easier for Flood and Sark this cycle.
Yeah, and those will be guys that they brought to Texas. I mean, Kelvin Banks showed up at Texas thanks to Kyle Flood and thanks to Mario Cristobal going to Miami. Can't discount that, but he became and remained a top, player in the country because of what Kyle Flood did. Cam Williams is going to get drafted. Again, he was highly rated too. Came to Texas thanks to Mario Cristobal and some other factors. But now 1 year, he's going to be drafted. Hayden Connor didn't sign with Sarkisian and company, but was developed under that crew. He could end up getting drafted. Jake Majors was around a couple of years, became a much better player when Sarkisian and Flood got a hold of him. So there have been a couple guys. You had Christian Jones. I think maybe you had one before then. I can't even remember. But you've had an offensive lineman get drafted. Now you're going to have offensive linemen get drafted in this upcoming draft, and it's going to help them out a lot. Justin, we'll keep on going, keep it moving. This past weekend in Miami, there was an Under Armour Next regional camp. Fort Lauderdale's right down the road from Miami, so that means our guy Dia Bell, Texas commit and 5-star, made it out, competed. One of the first times he really has gotten to throw extensively in a public setting since
the first time he's competed.
Since surgery and coming off an injury at the end of his 2024 season. Teams are still coming after him, as you'd expect for a 5-star quarterback, but good news, it sounds like, for Bell, Texas, and all involved.
Yeah, look, Dia Bell loves him some Texas and Steve Sarkisian. That family does. They picked this group out last June, and that was it. They were done. But they're still being thorough, just like these coaches are looking out of state. And so they're still listening to Georgia and Tennessee and Miami. And I think those are the 3 schools that are probably pushing the hardest, especially Georgia. Miami's going to try to sell him on staying close to home. But I don't think that's going to wind up being the case. He's not going to take any other official visits other than Texas. Right now, it's looking at tentatively June 20th to the 22nd. He could flip that to the 13th to 15th of June. But right now, looks like it's going to be late June. But here's the thing. Dia is going to be back on campus in probably another 3 weeks to a month. He's going to come for a spring practice, for a scrimmage. He's going to maybe even come for the fan day, because that's going to wind up being probably a pretty big recruiting day as well. Because Dia Sark and Milwee and those guys want Dia to start mingling around these receivers and these offensive linemen. And look, Dia's already talking to these guys. He has conversations with John Turntine and Caden Finley. He's already talking to some of these guys, but they want Dia around them a lot. My biggest takeaway from Under Armour in Miami was the fact that he looked sharp, especially coming off an injury less than 4 months ago. He was looking really, really sharp. And I know that was a big step for him, because he has worked so hard in the offseason to get back to where he needs to be. I knew that was so important for him and his family. And so Texas did it right. They got their quarterback first. They got probably, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the country. I love Jared Curtis too. He's a big kid. He's got some Roethlisberger to him. I mean, he's a big kid. But dude, Diaz just smooth, man. He is silky smooth. Everything is effortless, and he's got the right mindset. That guy, you can tell he's been raised by a professional athlete. Let's put it that way, because they are just trained to think a certain way. No excuses. No reason not to win, not to bring it all. Texas has their quarterback. Diaz locked in. He'll be back on campus a couple times, but yeah, it's time. He's turned on that recruiter hat, and that's exactly what they need.
You know, I'm trying to think. You mentioned that Georgia is recruiting him, but I'm also thinking about guys in that region, players in that region. Florida already has a quarterback commit, Will Griffin, who Texas recruited but didn't offer. Great quarterback. We all loved his film. Texas didn't offer him, and he committed to the Gators. I don't know if Miami has one. And then obviously Georgia.
There's another kid there named Deron Coleman. There's a quarterback down there in Deron Coleman. I think he's at Orlando Jones High School. He was phenomenal on Sunday as well. There's some guys in that area that you can really look for.
Right, but you know, you look at Georgia, they're recruiting Curtis very heavily, along with Oregon,
and he's already decommitted from them once.
Right, so that's a factor.
Tennessee's going to wind up snagging him. Watch.
What, Jared Curtis? No, they got Faison Brandon.
Oh, that's right. Is it Faison or Faison?
I'm not sure, but they have him.
You're right. I forgot about that.
It's we talk about this all the time. The quarterback dominoes and musical chairs goes earlier and earlier to where, you know, Georgia, you would think they'd be in really good shape already, but they're duking it out with Oregon. Texas is feeling pretty good about its position already, and they have their 2026 quarterback committed. So that I'm trying to think, that kind of just leaves LSU, who you mentioned as still communicating with Bell, as they don't have anybody else really, it seems like, in their options.
I think what LSU is going to do is they're going to take a bridge guy this year, or I mean, they're going to take a great guy. They always do, but they're really going to focus on 2027 because they got three in-state really, that they can just snag. And so I think that's going to be interesting, because I think they really want to set themselves up to grab one or two of those guys. And it'll be curious. It's going to be curious to how they manage 2026 if they're able to make sure they get those spots.
Texas in great shape with Dia Bell. Hey, we'll see if more than one Bell makes it to Texas with his Ty. I always remember.
Tia.
Oh, Tia.
You talking about his little brother, the basketball player?
Yeah.
That dude can play. That kid can play. But I mean, are we surprised? Dia can play. Yeah. I talked to Dia one time a couple months ago when he was at his brother's basketball game, and he's just like, man, I wish I could be down there playing with. I wish I could have been doing this. He was injured at the time. They go to different schools. They go to completely different schools. Wow. And so but Tia's also a dude. He's on the rise. 2027 guard.
Anything to add, Coach, on what Dia brings and just the recruiting factor, even though he is from Fort Lauderdale, what he helps this class, what he could help this class accomplish?
The biggest thing is, like Justin said, he's already a leader in gathering guys around. Like, he's bringing people into the class with him. That's what I want as a quarterback anyway. You need the talent around you. You can be successful, you can be good, but you need people and guys around you, and he's doing that, especially the guys up front. But just looking at his film, man, like Justin said, a silky smooth quarterback. He does it all. He can make every throw. He can take off and run. Like, what can he not do? He just has that it factor. You can't put your finger on it, but every time he's just going to find a way to make a play, and that's what Dia Bell is.
We got more to talk about before we keep on going. Got some words for Roback, and I'll provide that. There's only one way to describe Roback: best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roback has released so many items within their new licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and Q-zip designs from some of your favorite schools like Texas, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Roback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. Both are super comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that's made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. Roback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars like Quinn Ewers. They're becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. Use the code Texas20 on Roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's RHOBACK.com and 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with Texas20. There we
write down that code.
Yeah, that's the good stuff right there.
I gotta get me some Roback, man. I'm jealous.
I see mine sitting on a chair over there. Justin, we'll keep it in the Southeast. We got to talk a little bit about Xavier Crowell. You had some updates on him and maybe his plans as well.
Yeah, so when Tashard Choice left for Detroit, it really shook up running back recruiting. And Crowell was the first one to jump up and go, yeah, I'm out. I'm not taking this OV. I'm not doing this. Not happening. And then that changed. Then there was a connection there. Chad Scott went in and talked to him, and now he's reset his goals, and he's going to be on campus. I believe Mark. I had it written down. I don't have it written down in front of me. I believe it's March 27th through the 29th. It's going to be within that little window there. But he's coming back for an unofficial. That's going to be a very big unofficial visit, one of the biggest in this cycle, because that's going to determine if Texas gets that OV reset. We already have the OV set. It's early June, but it's going to lay the foundation if Texas is in this recruitment, because it was already going to be a tough pull with Alabama and Auburn. Those are the 1A and 1B in this recruitment. This kid grew up loving both. Both are going to break the bank to make sure this kid does not leave state. They're probably going to outbid each other ridiculously. It's going to be a fun thing to follow. But he's digging Texas. He likes the opportunity. I think he sees what Texas is doing with running backs right now as an offense, as a whole, as a program. And look, he's probably the best running back in the country. Let's just be honest. There's not many weaknesses to his game. Size, speed, balance, hands. He's legit. And it's good that Texas got back in with him and made sure to get that OV rescheduled. Crowell's big, but I'm telling you, it's going to be so hard to get him out of Alabama and Auburn. That's going to begin with this unofficial trip. If they can kind of solidify that relationship, if Chad Scott can find a connection there with Crowell, that's going to really go far into his decision-making. Now, I believe he wants to make the decision before his senior year starts, which a lot of these guys do, sometime in the summer, sometime in August. That's going to be key there, because Alabama gets the last OV, and there's kind of a quiet whisper that Bama might be the leader in this recruitment. And so Texas can see him a couple times before that happens, and it's going to be on them. Texas does a great job once they get guys on campus. They don't push. Their non-pressure tactics really benefit. It's hard to sign a number one class in the country when you're not pressing. Like, that is hard. No. It's like a car salesman just letting people leave the lot. Like, you just can't do that. But Sark and these guys have figured out the recipe. And with Crowell, they're back in it. They're in a great position with him, a great position with KJ Edwards, the 4-star number 3 running back in the country out of Carthage. Those are two dudes, man. And so it's good news for Crowell in Texas, because at this stage, Texas is going to be in on basically who they want to be in on. We're at the point now where Texas can kind of pick and choose which recruitments they want to dive into, which one they're going to allocate resources to, and which ones they can, narrow down. And so at the end of the day, that's probably the biggest thing. Crowell is probably my favorite back of this class, just because I don't think he has a weakness.
Charlie, when you watch Crowell's tape, we've kind of touched on why kids reclassify.
Yeah.
A lot of it is to give yourself some opportunities a little bit earlier than you could had you stayed in high school for an extra year. But what does Crowell have that makes it so he can succeed despite maybe leaving a year early?
He has the size. He's a bigger running back. You see him just running through arm tackles, like people bounce off of him like a big bowling ball. Once he gets rolling downhill, man, he's hard to bring down. But he also has the breakaway speed to go along with it. Like, he's rare. And I'm not calling him Adrian Peterson, but he has that type of feel. He's just running through kids, and he looks small. They're just hanging on for dear life when he runs the ball. And it's like, okay, that's just how I feel when I watch his film. And he separates from everybody. He can catch out the backfield. For a guy his size, he's really shifty and elusive to go along with it. So he has good vision. You see him cut back a lot and still go to the house. I think he had it was a kickoff return. I think he reversed field twice and still had enough stamina to make it to the end zone, right? And so you're talking about just an excellent kid who has it. That's why he can play and leave early, because he has the size, he has everything else.
He has the Barry Sanders thighs. They're not quite Barry's, but you remember Barry Sanders' thighs? I mean, those were tree trunks. He has that base. He has that load base. That's just hard. When he gets some momentum, he is tough to tackle.
Yeah.
We'll keep on going. Last topic. If you got a question, go ahead and get it on in.
Look, Sugar Father, I will touch on this before we leave.
All right. We'll do it at the end.
I'll touch it before we leave. Not right now, but right before we get out, I'll clear the board for him so everyone can understand where I'm at emotionally.
Coach, you had a story, and it's on Inside Texas right now. Talked about guys you'd like to see offered in the 2026 class. Most of them, I think maybe even all of them from the state of Texas, all 7. You listed quite a few guys. Who were some of your, of that group of 7, who were some of your favorites?
Definitely Landon Barnes and Jordan Deck.
He took mine. I knew he was going to do that.
Hey, man, look.
Jordan Deck is a player.
He really is. Just watch his film. Oh, this is a big kid, rangy kid. He fits the mold with Texas recruiting that safety. That 6'3" and above rangy kid who will come down and knock your chin strap loose, right? But he also can cover. He can play in the middle of the field, a deep third, and he does a lot for Frisco Lone Star. We know that's where Jalen Ford came from. Unfortunately, that's where a receiver we won't name went from and had a big game in Red River Robbery. We won't name him, but Jordan Deck is the amazing player. I like him. But Landon Barnes, everybody refers to him as the other edge at Duncanville. But to me, he's a complete edge. He can stop the run. He can rush the passer. He has a pro mindset. He has elite athleticism, and he's continuing to rise. And I think his best football is ahead of him. He reminds me of Baron Sorrell. He just has that kind of pro mindset and work ethic, but he has the size already. And I think he's probably the guy that nobody's really talking about that they should be talking about. He's starting to gain some offers. I know he got Oregon. I think he got Georgia and a few others. But Landon Barnes, I love him. I love his tape. And we seen him last summer. He came to a camp.
Last June.
He gets bigger and bigger and taller and tall. It's like, man, my God. Now I'm looking up to him. And it's like, okay, he just has that about him. I like Landon Barnes a lot. So those 2 really stand out to me.
I like the Chase Campbell pick. That kid is just blazing fast now.
He is.
That's an early Texas Tech. He's from West Texas, I believe.
And
he's highly rated. He's one of the more highly rated guys in the cycle. I love Chase Campbell. I'm a little surprised they haven't offered, because they do covet that speed. You know how I know that? Because I've watched the combine the last 2 years. So that's the dead giveaway. If you can run fast, Texas likes you. They'll look at you. And so that's a great article. Y'all need to come to InsideTexas.com and check out Charlie's stuff. Absolutely killing it. I love these 7 guys. Jordan Deck, I was hoping you didn't mention Deck so I could sound like I knew it, but you take the credit. That's fine. Chase Campbell is another one that's just got that crazy. There's some Kelshawn Johnson to Chase Campbell. He's light in the britches.
He is.
He can go. And so if those are guys, I don't think we're not saying they're going to get offered. We're saying we think they should. Texas has their wide receivers. They have their guys. They've got their first tier. They've got their second tier. Campbell's not going to be in that mix. But, man, he is a special kid, and it wouldn't be surprised if they did jump in just from the fact that he brings something that this program has had a lot of in the last few years, and that's God-given speed.
And the thing on this list is it's not these lowly rated 3 stars that he's got this athletic trait.
Under the radar.
Yeah. Some of these guys are 3-star prospects, but they're in the top 600. And some of these guys, are in the top 250, the top 300 that Texas just has not put an offer out yet. And some of that has to do with, hey, we're going to go get the best player no matter what. Some of it has to do with coach preference, assistant coach preference, that type of thing. But these are good players that guys, even at On 3, like Cody Belair and Charles Power, have identified and seen. They've ranked them highly. They're On 3 is kind of the outlier, and they're not from these no-name schools. One's from Oak Cliff and Corday Houston. One's from Richmond Randall. I think he may have transferred there, right?
Noriel Dominguez.
Yeah. Pac-Man.
Hey, I was telling Joe, that kid reminds me of Malcolm Rodriguez, the linebacker from Oklahoma State. That's the type of kid that goes to Oklahoma State. He's like Nick Martin. He goes to Oklahoma State, and he's a two-time All Big 12 type guy and winds up making it to the league. And one more point on Landon Barnes, Joe. If he doesn't play at Texas, he's going to play against Texas, because that is a defensive – that's an SEC defensive lineman if I've ever seen one. Not just from the size and his speed and, his ability, his mentality. That kid is a high motor, active guy, and that's what you see every Saturday in the SEC.
That's a great list. Go check it out. Charlie explains why he would offer them, what they bring to the table, and why some other national powers, not to besmirch the good name of Mike Gundy's program, but you got more than just Big 12 programs offering them. You've got some SEC, some Big 10 schools making these offers, seeing these guys as worth adding to their program. So definitely worth coming to Inside Texas and checking out. You can get it for just $1. And all right, before we get out of here.
Don't do this to me. Let me at least answer his question. Don't cut me out.
I'm not. You got your blue and black on.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I'm in baseball mode. Because I've had to kind of – I'm usually about a month behind on this because, 9 months ago, the Dallas Mavericks were 3 wins away from an NBA title. Now they're the worst franchise in all of professional sports. And the Kyrie news, I'm more sad for Kyrie because I'm out on the Mavericks. My son and I have disconnected from the Dallas Mavericks. I've never felt anything like that in my sports life. I can't even compare it to anything else. It's still, people don't realize how shaken that fan base is, just the people in Dallas-Fort Worth. And so Kyrie going down, crying, shooting his last 2 free throws because he knew those were going to be the last 2 shots he took in Dallas. Dallas revived his career. Luka helped rejuvenate this guy. And if he signs with LA, the Lakers, in the offseason, my son and I are moving to Laker Nation. Because that, at least there's some loyalty there. Maybe Rob Pelinka is a little bit better about that. But the Kyrie news is terrible, Sugar Father, just because he's the best ball handler I've ever seen in my life, ever. He is so special. He is so different. He is so unique. He did so many good things for Dallas. He got us so close to a title. I'm so sad for him. From a Mavericks standpoint, I'm just like, this is what you get. This is what happens. They disrupted the basketball gods so bad. They've had 6 or 7 year-end type injuries. They've had all this massive bad mojo. That's because you don't trade a generational player. You just don't do it. If you see what Luka's doing in LA, God, dude, my God, like the Lakers need another title.
Yeah. Thank you. You got the Lakers. You got the Cowboys. We'll be hearing about how much you love John Shire next, right?
Hey, look here, buddy. I don't think so.
You got blue and black on.
Hey, I've got. We're going Mariner today because I like to coordinate. Yeah. Charlie, you remember Boomerang? I got to coordinate. And so I was watching the Cardinals and the Mets before we got on the air, and no, I always kind of get into my baseball hat mode when baseball season starts, and you guys know I have 100 of these damn things. But yeah, Manchester United. Yeah, I'm not into soccer. That's not going to happen. No, that I could say something, but I don't want to. Yeah, I'll be quiet. But no, I'm not a Yankees fan. I'm a Cowboys fan because I grew up in Texas. That's a rite of passage. The fact that Joe's not, well, he had the Oilers, he's got the Texans, but yeah.
Hey, recruiting.
I'm only following Luka. I don't care about the purple and gold. I'm following Luka.
Recruiting will never break your heart. That's what we've
learned.
With that, thank you for watching. Make sure you do like this video, subscribe to the channel. Even if it does, for some reason, we'll be bringing the news to you. And make sure you head to InsideTexas.com. You can sign up today for just $1. And you can get all this great insight, scoop, and more as players can start visiting campuses, including the 40 acres. So, Justin,
thank you so much. On campus in the next few weeks.
Should be a lot of fun to track. Justin, thank you. Charlie, thank you. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com.